Solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. And this is part 2, where I'm just going to be doing a few examples of utilizing that method, the quadratic formula method. So let's review how the quadratic formula works. As long as your equation is a degree 2, your quadratic formula will always work. If you can get your equation into standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then your a, b, and c terms are as highlighted there, and you just plug those into your a, b, and c terms in that formula below. Whatever your variable is, that's what your equation will be equal to. So we have x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And just a reminder, we can sing that to Pop Goes to the Weasel, which I will do in each of my examples. After we plug in our appropriate terms into that formula, you're just going to simplify completely, and you can always check to make sure that you have the correct answers and at least the correct number of answers. So let's see some examples of this. Example 2 I have is z squared equals 6z plus 3. So our first step is set one side of the equation equal to 0. Now I like to do this the same way I like to do this in my factoring method, is I like to keep my leading term, the one with the squared or my highest exponent, I like to keep him positive. So in my example, I'm going to move everybody else to the left. It might seem like it's more work because I have to move more pieces, but it's really not going to be. It all just takes up one line on your paper. So I have z squared minus 6z minus 3 equal to 0. And I'd like to remind you that you are more than welcome to pause the video and try and work this on your own. The solution is listed in gray over there on the right. Now I need to plug this in the formula, so I'm going to write my formula down. One reminder that I have for you here though, whatever your variable is here, that's whatever your variable is going to be equal to. So in this equation, my variable is z, so my formula starts out as z equals. Now I'm just going to write down that formula and sing it, because the more that you do it, the more natural it becomes to you. Z equal negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so now I need to plug in my appropriate pieces. So I have my a being my 1 variable out in front here, so a equals 1. And let me color code this. So I'm going to do a in green. So my green is 1. And wherever I see my a's, I'm going to put that 1 in there for it. My b variable is the negative 6. Do not forget to carry a negative along with it. So this is my negative 6. That's my b variable. And I'm going to put it for any place I see a b. And my c variable is a negative 3. Again, don't lose the negatives with your numbers there. And that goes in for my c variable there. Okay, now I just need to plug in my variables where they go. So I have z is equal to negative, and my b variable is negative 6, plus or minus square root. My b is negative 6 squared minus 4 times my a is 1. Times my c is negative 3, all over 2 times my a is 1. And again, let me just color code those for you. My a, which is 1, are in the green places. My b's, which is negative 6, go in the b places. And my c of negative 3 goes in my c place. And again, whatever my variable is of z, that's my variable over here. Now that I have everything plugged in appropriately, now I just need to simplify. So I have z is equal to negative times negative 6 gives me a positive 6 plus or minus square root. Negative 6 squared gives you a positive 36. And on the right, you have a negative 4 times a negative 3. So negative times negative will give you a positive. That is one mistake that I see students do quite often. So make sure that you cancel those negatives out. And 4 times 3 gives you 12. And this is all over 2 times 1, which gives you 2. Remember, you cannot simplify the 6 over 2 yet in this step because you have to simplify everything, including the square root that goes with it. So wait until you simplify that. Moving on, I have z is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 plus 12 gives me 48. And that's all over 2. Now I can simplify square root of 48. It does not come out completely evenly, but I can simplify it using my good pi, bad pi method. So I have z is equal to 6 plus or minus, writing down my two roots for my good pi and my bad pi. 48, the biggest square that it divides by is 16. So that's my good pi. And 16 times 3 gives me 48. So that's my bad pi. So I have z is equal to 6 plus or minus. The square root of 16 gives you 4. And then you have 4 times root 3. And this is all over 2. Now you can finally simplify things. My recommendation to you is to split it up so you see how it works. So I have z is equal to 6 over 2 plus or minus 4 root 3 over 2. Now you can divide 6 over 3 and 4 over 2. This gives me z is equal to 3 plus or minus 2 root 3. Now, I technically have two solutions here, one of them being the positive, which is 3 plus 2 root 3, and one of them being the minus, 3 minus 2 root 3. And I'd like to remind you that you cannot go any farther here because they're not like terms. One of these is a whole number and one of these is a root. You cannot actually combine those any farther. So we have our final answer of z equals 3 plus or minus 2 root 3. We have the answer to our example 2 problem. Example 3. 5t is equal to 3t squared plus 2. Our first step is set our equation equal to 0 and put it in standard form. Again, I like to keep my 3t squared positive, so I'm going to move my 5t over to this side by subtracting it from both sides. That gives me 0 is equal to 3t squared minus 5t plus 2. So I have it in standard form. My a value is 3, my b value is negative 5, and my c value is 2. And my variable in this problem is my t. So writing down my formula and singing it, I have t is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now I'm going to plug in my appropriate terms. So I have t is equal to negative, and my b value is negative 5, plus or minus square root my b squared, or negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 2, all over to 2 times a, which is 3. So let's double check that we have everything plugged in appropriately. So again, my t variable I'm doing in yellow. My a I'll do in green. And so I have 3 in all of my a or green spots. My b I'll do in blue. So I have my b in all of those blue spots. And my C I'll do in this purple here. So I have C in all of my purple spots. So I've done step number 1 and step number 2. Now all I have to do is simplify completely. So I have T is equal to positive 5 plus or minus square root. Negative 5 squared gives me positive 25 minus 4 times 3 times 2. I'm going to do that all at once. 4 times 3 gives me 12, and 12 times 2 gives me a 24. And that's all over 2 times 3, which gives me 6. Moving on, I have T is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 24 gives me the square root of 1 all over 6. Square root of 1 does simplify, so that gives me T is equal to 5 plus or minus 1 over 6. At this point, you might think that you are done, but these are all just regular old numbers. They're whole numbers. So you can actually go farther in this problem. You can split it up as the fractions as you've seen me do it before, or since these are whole numbers, I'm going to split it up with the plus or minus. So I'm going to go up here. T is equal to 5 plus 1 over 6, which simplifies to 6 over 6, which simplifies to T is equal to 1. That gives me one of my answers. Now the other way is T is equal to 5 minus 1 over 6. 5 minus 1 gives me 4 over 6, and 4 over 6 reduces to 2/3. So that gives me my other answer here. This is a degree 2 problem. I shall have 2 answers, and so my solutions are T is equal to 1 and 2/3. Or the solution set is those same numbers in the braces. Now, since these came out to whole or rational numbers, okay, what I like to call pretty numbers, that means I could have actually done this problem a different way. Since it comes out to nice numbers, you can actually have done this problem by factoring. Now, if you and factoring don't get along, you are always more than welcome to use the quadratic formula method, because the quadratic formula, let me remind you, will always work as long as it's a degree 2 or a quadratic equation. But if you look at the screen here, you see that there's a lot of steps. If we were to solve this one by factoring, which I suggest that you maybe pause the video and go ahead and do, you can see that it only takes 3 or 4 steps to get done factoring. It's a lot simpler and shorter method. So if I had to do this problem on my own, I would have tried to do it by factoring first. But if you don't like factoring, then maybe you would try the quadratic formula first. So you always have a few options in solving quadratic equations.